Everyone, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for our CETL session. My name is Morgan Johnson, and I will be your host for today's session. We have Dr. Laura Palmer Noone here, our provost at Ashford, who will be delivering her 2019 provost address. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. Video and sound are turned off, but please feel free to post questions and comments in the chat, and we will have time at the end of today's session for Q&A. Without further ado, I will turn things over to Dr. Laura Palmer Noone.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Thank you all, too, for joining us today. We have a very full agenda of things we need to talk about, so we might as well get started. So if you go to the next slide, Morgan. Today we're going to try to talk a little bit about university updates, what's going on with our WASC reaffirmation, as well as with our conversion to a nonprofit. We're going to talk a little bit about the college and program updates, including some programmatic accreditation news, our new program and curriculum strategy for 2019, as well as our newly formed College of Doctoral Studies and our Honors College. We also have some updates on student success, which includes Support U. Support U includes things like our subject matter tutoring, writing center, etc. Project Finish Line, formerly known as Project Pineapple, and also our Civitas Inspire for faculty, and then a little bit of information about upcoming events. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. So let's go on ahead, Morgan. So let's start with the WASC reaffirmation and the nonprofit update. I will give you the WASC update with regard to the reaffirmation. For those of you not familiar with this nomenclature, every accrediting body goes through a process whereby they review institutions on a periodic basis to make sure that the institution is still complying with the accreditation standards. When we received our accreditation in 2015, the visit was set, and that visit will now take place on April 3 through 5, upcoming here in about 6 weeks. So we started out by generating an institutional review report, otherwise known as the IRR. We submitted that in November of 2017. So those of you that are good with calendars realize that was some time ago, and we have, as an institution, changed a fair amount in that period of time. We submitted the IRR actually in January, and then there was an off-site review conducted. That's where the team that will ultimately visit us reviews the documents that we submit, including our IRR and something else called the IEEI, which is an inventory of educational effectiveness. And those documents, along with many exhibits, were submitted to them, and they reviewed those documents in March, and then conducted the March 13th off-site review. During that off-site review, they asked questions of the leadership team of Ashford, and then developed what they call lines of inquiry. So you can think of these as the lingering questions, the questions that weren't, to their mind, adequately answered by the documentation we produced, or the documentation we produced just raised additional ideas and questions in their mind that they wanted to explore. They gave us until January of 19 to respond to the lines of inquiry, and we submitted voluminous documents at that time. Then there was a follow-up request on both February 4th and February 11th for additional information. And then there was a third-party comment announcement that will be sent out this March. The third-party comment announcement basically goes out to all of the students, faculty, alumni, staff of Ashford University, allowing you the opportunity through an anonymous email box to comment on Ashford and the things we're doing well or maybe not so well. And that announcement will be going out on March 12th. We encourage you to feel free to be as honest as possible. That is completely anonymous. We do not see anything that is submitted to that box. It goes directly to WASC, and therefore you can feel safe and secure in saying whatever you would like to say. Then the accreditation visit itself takes place April 3 through 5, after which time I will expire. So let's go on to the next slide. Who will meet with the WASC reviewers? When the WASC team is here, they have asked to meet with several different groups of folks, and you will notice that there is a request for associate faculty, full-time faculty, faculty senate leadership, and some of the steering committees and other folks, as well as our board of trustees, obviously the president and CEO. I'm the accreditation liaison officer, our executive committee, and assessment and educational effectiveness will be key in this as well. Our team members are very heavily focused on assessment and programmatic review and evaluating the effect to which we are able to affect positive change in our students' learning. So if we go on to the next one. And oh, by the way, yeah, there will be some of you that may be asked to participate in those reviews, especially those associate faculty. If you are not available during that time, that's certainly okay. But they did ask to meet with, I believe, 3 different groups of 6 to 8 faculty each, so that they could have the opportunity to ask questions of your perspective as associate faculty. And then, of course, the full-time faculty will have an opportunity to meet with them as well. So be on the lookout for any ongoing communications from either President Swenson or me. We will be putting together a reaffirmation visit training module, and that will be put, I believe, on the CETL at some point, but you will receive an invite to participate via email, and we'll be rolling that out the first week of March. We'll then have some focused preparation efforts occurring with faculty and staff who will, we know, be participating in the visit, so that everyone can feel comfortable that they understand what was submitted without having to read through literally 20,000 pages of documents. And then the third-party comment announcement will go out on March 12th. So you'll be, again, invited to participate via email in all of those activities. Okay?
We have a question really quick from a faculty member.
Sure.
Where does student affairs fall into the teams that WASC will be meeting with, and student services?
Student affairs and student services have not been specifically called out as groups that they want to meet with. However, we are preparing those groups to be available in the event the team decides that they want to meet with them. We have to understand that we look a little different than most institutions in the way we have structured ourselves, because those functions live on the Bridgepoint side of things right now. And keep in mind, it's entirely possible that our separation will have occurred by the time this visit takes place. So it may be that we are no longer part of Bridgepoint. We will be a separate, independently governed institution. And we're targeting right now to have that happen toward the end of March, but we will find out if that happens. But we do not have a separate meeting scheduled at this point for those folks, but we do have a little bit of time on the schedule that we could move some things around in case the team does want to meet with them. Also, it's a large enough team that they can divide up, and certain groups can go and meet with those teams while others are meeting perhaps with faculty. I hope that answers the question. All right, so the nonprofit update. I just referenced that a second ago. We continue to make significant progress to becoming a nonprofit. You may have seen there was an announcement that went out that the IRS has determined that Ashford Not-for-Profit will qualify as a tax-exempt 501c3 charitable institution once the separation is complete. This is another critical milestone, but we're still waiting on the WASC determination, and this is literally hot off the presses. I was at the WASC commission meeting and the substantive change meeting last Wednesday, and I believe they probably voted on the decision as to whether we should be allowed to separate at this time on Friday, but we have not heard the results of that vote yet. Once that is done, we can be officially separated, although there is another step that's involved with the Department of Education, but that is not critical to us actually becoming independent at this point. And without getting too far into the weeds, one of the things that we operate under with the Department of Ed is something called a Program Participation Agreement, PPA. And right now, Ashford has been operating for some time under what's called a Provisional Program Participation Agreement. And that's exactly the same sort of agreement that we would operate under while they consider what to go forward with us and determine how we are going to be treated, as whether we're going to be treating us fully as a nonprofit going forward. So. But we're excited. We're moving along the track. Okay, so let's move on to the college and program updates. We have some exciting news in that area. In the area of programmatic accreditation, the Forbes School of Business and Technology is seeking COSMA accreditation, which is the Commission on Sports Management accreditation for the Bachelor of Science in Sport and Recreation Management. They are currently finalizing their self-study. I believe we are technically a candidate at this point, but then when we submit that in March, we can have a decision from that group as to whether we become accredited by them for that program. We are also seeking Board for Engineering and Technology accreditation for the newly launched Bachelor of Science in Information Technology. They are currently preparing a readiness review at Forbes, and that's the first step in the process. And then once we have that, we will have the ability to move forward in that process. And as you know, we already have IACBE accreditation for the Forbes School. So we're looking forward to adding to those accreditations for the Forbes School of Business and Technology. The College of Liberal Arts is going to be seeking Network of Schools of Public Policy Affairs and Administration, NASPA accreditation. We're in the process of putting those documents together. The College of Health, Human Services and Sciences, since 2017, the Bachelor's in Health Information Management program has been accredited by CAHAM, which is the Commission on Accreditation for Health Informatics and Information Management Education. And then since 2017, the Bachelor of Science in Nursing at Ashford University has been accredited by CCNE. I'm not sure it was 2017. I think that might have been 2018. But
Laura Slowinski just corrected January 2018.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that was 2018. So, okay. Moving forward, the College of Education, we have an Associate of Arts in Early Childhood Education that was recognized by the Council for Professional Recognition, CPR, that does not stand for cardiac, whatever, at the meeting of the Academic Standards for the Child Development Associate Certificate. Those of you not familiar with that, the Child Development Associate Certificate is now becoming the gold standard for those early childhood educators dealing with young kids. Learning assessment, we are seeking recognition from the National Institute for Learning Outcomes Assessment, Excellence in Assessment. The organization, you might be familiar with the acronym, is NILOA, and NILOA is very well known in assessment circles, and the EIA Outcomes Assessment Excellence Award would recognize us for our intentional integration of campus-level learning outcomes assessment. So I'm looking forward to seeing the results of that, and I'm hoping that Tricia Lauer and her team, and those of you involved with the assessment process, will have the opportunity to bring home that award. And then, of course, the Forbes School of Business and Technology received accreditation through IACBE for the, what am I thinking of? Accounting programs, and now they're going to be hosting the regional conference at Ashford San Diego offices in October. Okay, new programs and curriculum strategy. We've got a lot going on. If you were here a couple of years ago when we were all waiting for things to come out of the Department of Ed and we were just kind of standing around marking time, it felt like we weren't doing anything. Now we've got lots of things in the works, and these are all of the programs that we are going to try to launch in 2019. There's a lot here, and this is going to be a heavy lift for a lot of folks. And for those of you that are not as familiar with it, for example, when Ken Indick and his group do the BS in Cyber and Data Security, and it was launched in January, there was a lot of back office work that goes on after the curriculum is actually developed. So for example, we have to figure out how to get it into Canvas. We have to figure out how the online application portal will support this and allow students to select the right majors and things of that nature. The BA in Public Health is actually more of a name change in a way. There is some curricular changes in it, but it was originally called the BA in Health Education. I think I've got that right, Laura Slowinski. And then the BA in Hospitality Management is a revision of a program that we were calling Services Management, and that's being led by Dr. Patricia Ryan. At the graduate level, we have the MS in Technology Management. We are revising the MBA, and I saw Brenda Forte here today, and it's a complete rewrite of the MBA. So it will be the opportunity to make sure it is a flagship program for us. The MS in Health Informatics and Analytics. the MA in Homeland Security, which is coming out of the College of Liberal Arts, the MS in Teaching, which is coming out of the College of Education. And interesting thing about the MS in Teaching, we have right now an Educator Preparation Institute that's led by Dr. Newton Miller out of the College of Ed that actually allows people to become licensed as teachers in the state of Florida. And there's a reciprocity agreement that I believe 48 states have signed on to that would then allow those students, even though they did their student teaching technically in Florida, they would have the ability then to transfer that teaching credential. The problem we have right now with that program is it does not qualify for Title IV financial aid. So people would have to pay for their own way in that. In order to make this program qualify for financial aid, it had to be converted into a graduate or undergraduate degree. And we opted for the MS in Teaching because we thought that that would be something that would be very attractive to our students after they had gotten their teaching credential. Because as we know, teachers move along the pay scale as they achieve additional credentials. We also have the MS in Instructional Design and Technology, which is our competency-based version of this program, otherwise known as CBE. This is a really exciting milestone for us because it was not all that long ago that it was difficult for for-profit institutions to get CBE accredited programs that were based on competency. So it was a big, big lift for us, a big win, and we're really excited about offering that. And we launched an internal cohort in 2019, and we're hoping to do in 2018, and we're hoping to do an external launch in 2019. And then, of course, we're really excited about rolling out 2 additional doctoral programs that were approved while they were still at the Rockies, but we were able to transfer them in. So that's the EdD, the Doctor of Education, and the DM, the Doctor of Management, both of which are more practitioner focused than I would say PhDs generally are. They tend to have more action-oriented projects. So it will be a really exciting opportunity for us to branch into a new area of education and management that is not tied specifically to the 5-chapter dissertation. This is new program and curriculum strategy. I don't know that I want to spend a ton of time on this other than to let you know that there is definitely a process through which we step. We're developing in the group that's headed by Jody Fikema, a minimum of 200 course develops in 2019. We are trying to focus in on, as a part of that, promoting student learning and promoting faculty and student engagement. And then on the revision schedule, we're trying to make sure that we finish up any of the program review action items, program rationalization courses, and touching those outdated courses that need to be looked at again. Then we also have a commitment to certifying our courses through Quality Matters. Without, again, not getting too far into the weeds, we kind of let some of that get away from us a bit. We had them approved, and their approval was only good for 5 years, and all of a sudden we turned around, and by golly, it was 6. So we had to go back and catch up on some of those courses, and we are excited to be moving forward to making sure that all of our courses are QM certified. This is also a slightly different approach than Rockies took. Ashford has taken the approach of having every course QM certified. I believe that Rockies did it on a programmatic level. That's something we'll continue to look at over time, and that's a sampling. But we want to make sure that we are consistent in our commitment to Quality Matters. Okay, I see a question here. Will faculty be sent an announcement when they apply to teach in the doctoral program? I will let you in on a little secret. The person who was running the doctoral program, Jeremy Moreland, was offered a job as a provost in a college in Florida, and he decided to take that. And I always encourage anybody who has that opportunity to move up and develop themselves to have that opportunity. Fortunately, we have the wonderful Dr. Iris Lafferty, who has come in and is now going to be the acting executive dean while we search for a full-time replacement. And so I imagine whoever takes over that program at that point will make some decisions about how we're going to recruit for those programs and who might qualify. So let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so here's a little bit about the College of Doctoral Studies, and IRIS has been doing a wonderful job. They held a doctoral summit in December with a focus on continued commitment to students and collaboration. They actually created a mission statement for the College of Doctoral Studies, kind of created their vision, their strategic plan, and then we're looking at the 2 new doctoral programs and a graduate orientation. One of the things we have discovered over time is the students that we educate through our programs that move on to our next level program tend to do pretty well, but students who come to us maybe from another institution or with a different set of experiences really probably need a graduate program orientation. So we're looking to create that to make sure that they understand not only how do you operate at Ashford, but how do you do graduate work and what does that look like differently than what they've done in the past. We are looking at assessment and going through the PLOs for the doctoral programs and annual assessment plans and getting our program reviews into the same cycle. They were fundamentally in the same cycle as Ashford's, but probably were a little bit behind in a couple. So we are going to see if we can get them kind of back up on the cadence that we're on. And I know that Pamela Reyes and Tricia Lauer are doing a great job of making sure that that gets taken care of. One of the unique features of the doctoral programs that we have taken on that were formerly from the Rockies is they have an in-residence campus experience. Now that was occurring in Denver up until recently, and for a lot of regulatory reasons we have decided to move it to California. And so we're going to have our first in-campus residence here, in-campus in-residence workshop in March 2019. As a matter of fact, it starts this week. And I will be meeting with the first group of, I think there are like 40 students that are coming to San Diego. And we are really excited about having them on our campus. And well, we'll just see how it goes, because it's a little bit different campus environment than it was at Rockies that actually had classrooms in the library and things like that. So we'll see how this goes. We're just kind of playing it by ear this first time around. We also have developed a virtual in-residence, which is not as optimal as having people face-to-face because of the need to create that community of scholars, but it is an option, especially for those students who might be international. For example, somebody who's deployed in the military, it might be really hard to get back to San Diego for 3 days worth of a residency workshop. So, and then we've got an ongoing commitment to AU as evidenced by the CDS faculty service in governance. We have now got senators that are from the faculty, from the CDS, and so we're real excited about adding all those folks onto our governance, our UFP, credit hour, and all the other projects and initiatives that are going on. And the first College of Doctoral Studies Research Symposium will take place here in San Diego, April 23 through 25. If you have more questions about that, I would encourage you to get in touch with either the CETL or with Dr. Lafferty about what that's going to look like. But we're very excited about hosting the Research Symposium for our college, our students.
There was one question that came through. Do we plan to offer a program for doctorate students that just need their dissertation to complete their degree?
We have a version of that, Vicki, right now, and I'm going to mess up the name. I think it is called the ADP, Alternative Dissertation Project or something. I might have the acronym wrong. It does not allow students to come in just and simply do the dissertation, but it certainly truncates the amount of other work that they need to do. Because we have recognized, along with most of the rest of the higher ed community, that there's a plethora of people sitting out there that are all but dissertation. And if they could have a way to successfully complete their degree, it would fulfill their life goals and hopefully help them move forward in their careers. Honors College. It's been a while since we talked about the Honors College. Those of you that are not as familiar with it, we have a process by which students can apply to be part of the Honors College, and they can take either 3 or 6 classes with us, depending on how far along they are in their actual program. And the first COLA and Honors College Student Conference is actually kicking off tomorrow with 2 student keynotes and 6 student research presentations. In addition, at our next graduation on May 4th, there will be an Honors College Medallion ceremony where we recognize the first graduates. Very exciting. All right, faculty recognition. Let's talk about this. We've had some fun things happening here too. We just announced the 2019 awards for the University Fellows Program. And I want to thank, were there 13 awardees? 15 awardees, where we gave away basically $100,000 in faculty research grants for folks to pursue a passion of theirs in research. And they're very exciting disciplinary areas, but we've divided them predominantly into teaching and learning, retention, and then discipline specific. So we have lots of good research going on about how to improve retention, how to improve teaching and learning in the classroom, and we're just really excited and very proud of the award winners in that area. So here's a listing of all of them. I'm not going to read them all to you, but you can see that and I think this may have been in the faculty focus or will be if it was not. We'll publish these names so you can see all the good work that these folks are doing. And then sabbatical awardees. We implemented a program last year, I believe, where we decided that we would give sabbaticals to those faculty who thought that they could use some time for concentrated research. And the sabbatical basically consists of a 1 or 2 course release from their teaching load. So here's a listing of those folks that qualified as the 2019 sabbatical awardees. So congratulations to all of you. Another of the ideas that we came up with is we realized that we have some very, very dedicated associate faculty who have stuck with us a long time, and we wanted to recognize those folks that had done an exemplary job and had been with us for a period of time and wanted to make sure that we could keep them interested in staying with Ashford. So we came up with some selection criteria where the faculty member would have to maintain a 12-month average priority score of greater than 3.0. They had to maintain their approval to teach courses that were specifically identified for the pilot and that run regularly at full capacity. And the idea of the appointment was we'll work with the faculty schedulers to build out a full 2019 schedule of courses for these associate faculty lecturers. And then that will give them the opportunity to schedule back-to-back courses and then also have biweekly payments, basically be on the same kind of payroll cadence that the rest of the university and the full-time faculty are. If there's a faculty member who teaches their 8 and wants to teach more, they can accept additional courses as they are available, but they do remain contract employees, and they must demonstrate continued excellence in their IQRs and contract employment and compliance. We came up with the title to recognize these folks as our associate faculty lecturers. So we're really excited about having the new lecturer role for our associate faculty to recognize all the good work that they do and their commitment to Ashford. So a little bit about the student success initiatives. I feel kind of a little out of my, I'm punching over my weight class right now because most of this came from Mindy Sloan. So hopefully, I saw she was on there earlier, so it's all good. Well, we'll see how it does, Mindy. But hopefully I will be able to do this some justice. So the first thing is Support You. So let's go to that. And Support You, this shows you the usage of the different functions of Support You. We have subject matter tutoring, writing paper reviews, and library tutoring. And you can see the number of hours that were spent in 2018 and then the number of sessions. The other function that is highly used by our students is Grammarly. And in 2018, there were over 11,352 students who submitted documents into Grammarly. So that's really an impressive amount of folks, and I'm glad to see that it's being used, especially when I read some of the grammar that comes across my email. So I'm glad to see that it's being used, but it's been very highly successful. And in fact, one of the things is it's almost a little bit too successful. We have to make sure that we're not having students misusing, not Grammarly so much, but subject matter tutoring, because that literally, those students can log on and get a tutor within a few seconds, and then have a tutoring session, which we have at this point tried to cap at an hour at a time, so that we didn't have students working through their entire homework assignment with a tutor just sitting on the line, but instead we're prepared to log in and ask appropriate questions so that they could make the best use of the resource. This is tutoring usage by quarter and by the different areas, so it's just kind of another look at that prior graph, but it's, you know, the subject matter tutoring. And I think that paper review is by far the most effective when it comes to helping students progress along the way. That's one of the areas where our students tend to stumble a little bit. So paper review is always the one that nets the best results. But trust me, if you've ever been stuck in a stats class and you didn't know how to do some kind of analysis, it would be nice to have that tutor available as well. All right, support you outcomes. Basically, the users on average take 2.2 more courses than those students who don't make use of these resources. So that shows that we have students that we're having a higher pass rate, lower fail rates, lower drop rates, and then they're earning more points in the course. So it's definitely an effective strategy, and I think one that our WASC visitors will be very pleased to see that we have committed to supporting our students with all of these Support You tools. Okay, finish line. This is the project known originally as Project Pineapple, and if you're not familiar with it, the whole idea behind it was we had students who were heading into the last week of class who would have otherwise passed, but all of a sudden weren't passing. So the faculty of the Division of Gen Ed has been able to figure out a way to allow those students to have additional time, specifically during the grading week, for them to complete, for example, the ALEX math work. And when they do that, we had 2,300 additional students pass math who would not have passed had they not had that opportunity. 384 non-math completions by faculty members reaching out in the last week and saying, hey, you were doing great up until the last week. Is there something wrong? What can I do to help you? In 2018, the College of Liberal Arts reached out to 716 students as a part of the Finish Line initiative. 159 were already working with faculty, and 91 successfully completed their course as a part of this intervention. Now, that may not sound like a lot. Excuse me, I've got allergies. But those 91 students probably in all likelihood would have failed. And when they failed, they probably would have dropped out and never came back, because they can't use financial aid for courses they have failed. So they'd have to pay out of their pocket. And so that generally means the students are not going to be able to, generally that means that they're not going to come back and they're not going to be able to be successful. The College of Health and Human Services had 7 programs implement a version of Finish Line, and results showed that 92 outreaches occurred with 52 students successfully completing their final assignment and completing the course. So congratulations to all the colleges that have implemented this successfully. You're doing wonderful things. Another area that I'm very proud of, and I'm particularly proud of all the faculty that have been involved in Civitas Inspire for Faculty. This is, if you're familiar with it, the system whereby we give you that dashboard of how your students are doing and then give you the opportunity to reach out to them through what are called nudges. And you might nudge a student who's having a little bit of trouble and say, hey, here's subject matter tutoring, you might want to try that. Or you might nudge that student who's doing a really, really good job and just keep encouraging them to continue on. So we have had a lot of nudges. The vast majority of the nudges do occur in the first 5 courses because that's where I think the students need the most help, the most encouragement, because they haven't had a lot of success yet. But this gives them the opportunity to have that success, and then I think that makes a big difference. Their willingness, they know that they can be successful, they're going to continue. Okay. And the nudging has held pretty much steady at about 50% adoption, so I think that's great. I'd love to see more people use it. I do realize it's another thing for you to check as a faculty member, but if it can make the difference between a student being able to complete your course successfully or dropping out, it's definitely worth taking the few minutes to send that nudge to a student. This is just a little bit about the effectiveness of IFF in the DOGE courses. And you can see from that, maybe you can, it's kind of small print, but you can see that we have had those sections with 3+ nudges have a higher retention rate and pass rate than those who do not. So it's definitely, they have an 84.3% success rate compared to an 81.5 in the remaining sections and post-control that do not do the nudges. So they were definitely having more success with the students who are getting the nudges. So upcoming events, let's talk about this. We've had some wonderful regional events. You can see some of the pictures here of the events that we've been to. I see one from the Tempe location, and I see some from, I think, maybe Atlanta. Anyway, it's wonderful to see the faculty, and I'm really excited that we have the opportunity to get with you and have these faculty meet and greets. Q1, we're going to be in Atlanta. We have a working mixer, and then we're going to be in Denver on March 30th, and specifically at the Ronald McDonald House. In Q2, we're going to do Detroit, Chicago, San Diego, and June will be Dallas-Fort Worth area. Then in July, we'll be in Seattle. August, we'll be heading to Washington, D.C. for a networking mixer. In September, we'll be in the Phoenix Tempe location, although it probably will be in Chandler by that point. I think they will have moved. And then October, it will be San Diego for the alumni celebration, and then November in Davenport, Iowa, where, William Woods, I hope you will promise me it will not be snowing on me, okay? We are also very pleased to participate in the Online Learning Consortium, and we are going to be co-hosting at Ashford University the Online Learning Consortium Collaborate, Connecting Digital Learning Professionals. So we will be bringing people to the Ashford location to participate in this, and we are excited to be affiliated with the Online Learning Consortium, and I give great kudos to Morgan and her team for setting this up. And then mark your calendars for November 5th through 7th. I know that seems like a long way away, but it will be sneaking up on us soon. The TLC, the Teaching and Learning Conference, does not stand for Tender Loving Care. It's the Teaching and Learning Conference on November 5th through the 7th of 2019. So, and that is Paul, you're right. So that was a lot of information, and I talked probably about as fast as I ordinarily do, unfortunately. So do you have questions for me?
There was one question that came up earlier. Will faculty have the option to enroll in any of the doctoral programs for discount?
I don't know that that's been ironed out yet. It would be my hope that we have the ability to offer that to our faculty at a discounted rate, but I don't know if that has been decided. But I will keep you posted as soon as I know what is done. Some of those decisions were kind of on hold until we are separated from Bridgepoint, because we don't want to make a decision based upon feedback from Bridgepoint and then end up being, making a different decision when we're separated and have to roll back a policy. So that's part of why we have been delaying making some of those policy-like decisions, hoping that we have answers to those questions sooner rather than later. Okay. How does the associate faculty lecturer position work? The associate faculty lecturer position works by basically the faculty member is assigned their courses at the beginning of the year, and we try to spread them out at an even cadence so that you have an even teaching load, and then you're paid on an every 2-week basis. It's basically the same requirements, other than the fact you have to maintain your high levels of standards in your performance. I don't know if that answers your question or not. Bailey?
And there was a question earlier about how to apply for the lecturer role, and 2019 is a pilot period for this particular role, so we'll evaluate at the end of the year and determine how to proceed in 2020.
And to be perfectly fair to Morgan and her team, this was my harebrained idea, and they had to try to come up with a way to implement it. And so it is a pilot. We just don't know what we don't know at this point. I'm hoping that maybe there's a way that we can even embed some more benefits and things like that. But for rolling it out this year, we're going to try it as a pilot and see if we have the ability to manage it appropriately. will associate faculty who have been several years of service be offered limited benefits in the future? That's another great question. We are in the process right now of going through benefits analysis. To be perfectly honest, Ashford doesn't know what his benefit package is going to look like post-separation. For the short run, we are going to stick with Cigna because we're still in the contract year, but we will we'll look at all those options and determine if it's feasible to do that. One of the things we have talked about is even if we can't pay for you to do it, pay for your benefits, would there be a way for you to opt in and pay on and at least get our group rate rather than having the exchange rate, which may or may not be as favorable? And I don't even know that. But again, I wish I had a little bit more detail around some of those, but I don't at this point. So trying to get those things ironed out as soon as possible. If I just get that call from WASC, I'd know a lot more. I could start really working on some of this stuff.
There was a question if in faculty meetups in various cities, are these socials, formal instructional meetings, dinners? What's the format essentially?
I think they're mostly social. I think they're, you know, there's not like a formal dinner necessarily. I think they might have some snacks and things like that. But the idea is for you to get with your fellow faculty and network. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, there's, in 2019, there will be 3 different formats. There are some events that are taking place with other Ashford groups at volunteer locations. So the first one coming up is at Ronald McDonald House, and we expect to see some of those. So that's a mix of faculty, active students and alumni, and then staff at the institution. Others are more of networking mixers. There may be, you know, appetizers and whatnot at the event. And then the third, we have 4 events this year in partnership with Career and Alumni Services. The first one in Atlanta in March that the Forbes School of Business and Technology is hosting. And that also includes, again, our active students and alumni and potentially community partners that we're working with who may come in and do more of the instructional component. Now that generally is geared towards students, but faculty have an opportunity to participate as well.
I think there was a question earlier too about how, I just lost it. It's heck getting old, you know that? I did want to let you know that, how are the faculty going to be chosen for the WASC reviewers? A couple of things. We're trying to get a nice broad cross-section of representation from all the different colleges so that we don't just have a room full of just Forbes people or a room full of just COLA people. We wanted to make sure that we had representation across the colleges, representation across levels of experience with the university so that you could speak to, you know, if you had just gone through NFE last year, you might have a different perspective than somebody that went through it 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. So we're trying to get a cross section, and then of course we're very much dependent on your availability. There are set times for these meetings, and again, if you cannot participate, please don't feel like you're being left out of the process. Please make sure that you take the opportunity to comment to WASC through that anonymous mailbox. And also, I just want you to know, we'll share with you what we are showing WASC and telling WASC, but there are no wrong answers. You are not expected to be the Stepford faculty under any stretch of the imagination. We know that you have opinions and we value those. So we just want to make sure that you feel comfortable at least knowing what we're focusing in on as an institution and what we think the team might focus in on. But again, there are no wrong answers, and we want you to feel very much comfortable being candid with whomever asks you any questions.
There was another question about how can faculty learn more about military outreach and get involved with the military team working with students and bases.
That is a good question, and we can pass that on. The person that runs that, Jackie Furtado and Heather Albin, are the ones generally in charge of that. So I will pass along your interest in that, and they can work with Morgan to determine if you would like to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, and Molly Molnar just posted in the chat too that more recently a faculty subcommittee of the Military and Student Veteran Task Force has been created. So Molly, I don't have the names of all the representatives from each college in front of me, but if you would be so kind to post those in the chat, that would be amazing. This group, again, has recently come together, but definitely will be able to help facilitate some of that partnership.
Will there be an opportunity for faculty to receive training to serve on dissertation committees? Yes, there will be. That is still in the development stages, but I'm sure that's on Iris's to-do list, along with a couple of the faculty that are in charge of the dissertation, Scott Burris and Irene Stein, and they are going through, I think they're revising the training right now. Right now, it's kind of designed for people that have already been involved with dissertations, but I think that there's very much a plan to open that up to see, because we can always use more good dissertation committee members and more good dissertation chairs. It's a real art form to be a good dissertation chair, and I will be the first one to tell you I was a lousy dissertation chair, which is why I don't do that any longer. I would not inflict that on our poor students once again. When is the deadline to update digital measures to prepare for the WASC accreditation visit?
ASAP.
ASAP. Okay. Either you're all typing at once or you're running out of steam. I'm not sure which.
Well, for anyone that did not have their questions answered this evening or have questions that come up in the future, feel free always to reach out to provost@ashford.edu. It's a direct inbox that Dr. Noone has access to. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and a big thank you to Dr. Palmer Noone for being here and presenting. A recording of tonight's session will be sent out. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to CETL@ashford.edu. Thank you all and have a great evening.
Thank you. Goodbye.